The reading, and I just want to lift up verses 1 through 6 this morning of Jonah. And it says, "The word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Amittai. Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness has come up before me." But Jonah ran away from the Lord and headed for Tarshish. He went down to Joppa, where he found a ship bound for that port. After paying the fare, he went aboard and sailed for Tarshish to flee from the Lord. Then the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. All the sailors were afraid, and each cried out to his own God, and they threw the cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. But Jonah had gone below deck, where he lay down and he fell into a deep sleep. And so we want to just look at this text tonight, and this morning, and for a thought, we like to use the phrase, "I'm about to crack up." All right. I'm about to crack up. And the biblical truth we want you to ascertain from all of this is that in those moments when it seems like we're about to lose it all, we have to step out on faith and trust God for the journey. And there are times in all of our lives when it seems like we're just about to lose everything. We work hard, try hard, and we make mistakes, and we stumble and fall, and it seems like sometimes those mistakes seem to hang around, and it seems like, Lord, I just don't know what to do next. I'm about to lose my mind up in here. But this sermon today is not going to be about Jonah, even though this text deals, and he's one of the key players in this text. And it's not going to be about Nineveh. And believe me, I know y'all probably saying, wait a minute, didn't he preach about Jonah last time he preached about a year ago? I do know more books in the Bible. I do. But God brought me here, so we all going there. And it's not about Jonah, it's not about Nineveh, this sermon, even though they're key players in all of this, and this is what it's all about, what it's rounded about. But we're going to look at the ship. Somebody say the ship. The ship. The ship has the responsibility of transporting or moving the people, cargo, families, valuables that were from one place to another. Someone has paid someone to go and pick up some cargo and bring it back because they want to sell these goods. And especially in these times, when the ships would go out, people would put their monies down on this ship and invest in the ship. And some would say, okay, get me this. I'm going to put $1,000 in. Somebody else might spend $100,000 on goods, and they would go out and pick it up and bring it all back. The ship having the responsibility to move them from one place to another. Since the ship is the vessel by which your important cargo is moved, you wanted the vessel to be seaworthy. Nobody want to put trust their lives on a ship that they know will sink every time it goes out and they have to drag it back in. No, you want a seaworthy vessel. So we're talking about the ship. In the text, God told Jonah to arise and go, but Jonah decided to arise and run from. How many of us ever ran from what God wanted us to do? You know, back in the day, there was a song by Frankie Beverly and Mays they put out, and it was called "Running Away." Y'all remember? Yeah. Oh, y'all don't remember. Y'all know about Frankie Beverly and Mays? Yes, sir. Yeah, y'all know that? Yeah. Really? Yeah. "Running Away," and the chorus to that song says, "Running away, we need some rejuvenation. Running away, leaving a bad situation." And Jonah looked at this thing and said, "This is a bad thing, Lord, that you're asking me to do. I need to run away from this thing because I don't think I like what you want." And don't we kind of decide whether God is making the right choice or us? We want to run away sometimes. Running away. Frankie Beverly and Mays was singing it and about some of life's situations, but we sometimes want to run away from what God is doing in our lives. What do you run to when you need rejuvenation? Where do you run when you're leaving a bad situation. And we could stay there and deal with that all day, because there are bad situations that some of you really need to run from that you're hanging around into. But we won't deal with that because it's about the ship. What are you running from? Where do you run to when you're leaving a bad situation? And Jonah thought that this thing about saving these folks in Nineveh, these people I don't like, these people that don't like us, these people that have been trying to kill us, and they would kill people in awful ways, and skinning them and sticking them on poles and hanging the bodies up. But Jonah decided he wanted to get away. What vessel are you using to escape from God? And we have all these different ways to get away from what God wants us to do. Somebody say, I'm about to crack up. Sometimes we feel like we're about to lose our mind, and we just make some of the worst choices by all of the decisions we make. It's the ship. It's the ship. We all have our own mechanisms, means, tools, procedures, and processes we use to escape the presence of God and the pressures of life. Sometimes it's just silence. We don't want to talk. We don't want anybody talking to us. Sometimes it's isolation. We go and get away. And then there's always somebody telling behind you, leave me alone, leave me alone. And you go lock yourself up in the room. Hey, can I come in? And you're just trying to get away. You're trying to get away. Sometimes we use laughter. We don't recognize sometimes people laughing all the time. It's really they're just trying to escape something. They're tired of the depression. I'm tired of being sad. I'm tired of thinking about all my bills. Just laugh sometime. And if you don't like it, then get away from around me. And some people use meditation. But we all have different mechanisms we use. But if it involves disobeying God, we're just running into trouble. And that's what we typically end up doing. We run from one trouble into another. Even though Jonah has decided to disobey God's directives and instead chooses to run away in the total opposite direction, guess what God did? God prepared a vessel to move him from anger, hatred, and disobedience to love, compassion, and obedience. Jonah did not like them one bit. Jonah decided, I am not going to do it, and the best way to get out of it is to go in the complete opposite direction. And now see what you're going to do, God, because I want those people to die. And don't we get that way when people have done something to us that we don't like? And sometimes we get that nasty attitude. Get them, God. Sick them. Yeah, we do that. David did it in scripture sometimes about his enemies. He said, yeah, Lord, wipe them out, kill them, destroy them. And we get that way sometimes. Somebody say it's the ship. Isn't it good news that God always has an answer to our disobedience? In Psalms 139, and I'm going to read from the King James here, 139 verses 7 through 11 says, where shall I go from the Spirit, from thy Spirit? Or whither shall I flee from thy presence? If I ascend up into heaven, guess what? You are there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there shall thy hand lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, even the night shall be light about me. You can't run from God. Isn't the best place to run and hide is under the cover of darkness? Military even use those tactics. Go in under the cover of darkness. Get in there and get out. And we try to run from God and get into darkness, and God says, you know what? Darkness, I can make darkness light. I see everything. Jonah wanted to get away. We can't hide from God. It's the ship. Jonah's ship was designed to save him, similarly to Moses' ark of bulrushes. You remember the story about Moses and how his mother wanted to protect her son, do a good thing because the Pharaoh was killing all the firstborn. And so she put them in a bulrush, an ark of bulrushes. Now, the bulrushes were in and of themselves. If you put something on it, if you put it in water, it's just going to soak up all the water and sink. But guess what the mama did? A good mama who was looking out for her child. She got slime. Some of you don't want to put your hand in slime, do you? She got slime and she got pitch and she covered the bottom of it so that it would float in the water and it wouldn't soak up all the water, and just placed her child in that. And some of us have come through some things where slime and pitch kind of brought us through, and we don't want to talk about it anymore. We don't want to talk about eating bologna sandwiches all day and that's all you had. And we don't want to talk about not having shoes on our feet. And we don't want to talk about some of the things of our past because right now, I sit in a nice position, and I can't relate back to those things. But Moses' mother built an ark of bulrushes that saved him. Moses' ark was made seaworthy by putting the pitch on there and putting the slime on there. It's about the ship. It's the ship. How is your ship powered? Is it powered by the wind, or is it powered by the power of men? We heard the sermon last week, didn't you? About how the prophet had to prophesy to the four corners of the earth, or the winds to come from the four corners of the earth. And when we talk about the wind, we're talking about the breath of God or the Spirit of God. How are the vessels you use powered? Are they powered by God's directives? Or are you just sick and tired of hearing what God got to say? Or do you always wait and listen to what man has to say as far as how you move about? When we talk about vessels, vessels are just objects that God can use to do different things. We have cups, we have pitchers, we have vehicles. All those things are just vessels God can use. And God can even use people as vessels. Have you been a vessel to bring someone in out of the darkness? Bring them into the light? That's what our theme is this year. The vessels. What vessels do you use to move yourself through life's maze? Most of us were born to vessels known as loving parents. They provide food and shelter for us. They made sure that we were taken care of. They do what's best for us and guide us in the right direction. But guess what? We get a certain age and we think we know it all. I don't have to listen to mama no more. I ain't listening to that no more. I can get out here and I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna get me a place, and I ain't gonna listen to them no more. They ain't gonna tell me when to come in. They don't have to tell me this. They don't have to. Y'all been there. I know you've been, because I've been there. And I know all of us as young folk, in some way or another, we didn't say it out loud to mama. I knew better. There were some things I thought in my head, and I always had to look around to see if mama heard me. It was in my head, but I knew if mama thought she heard me, a shoe, a pot, or anything would come my way. But we get the big head and we start to run away, trying to do it our own way. We get a certain age and we begin to run away from the system and try to do what we want to do. We didn't respect the vessels God gave to us. We use the vessel of manipulation when we are seeking position and power. You know how you want to get that new job and you want to manipulate, and you don't think the person in that position should have that job. You think it should be your job. And so you start manipulation. Instead of using your talent and your skills and waiting for someone to see that, you want to use manipulation. Some of us use the vessel of social media to gain acceptance, not our own ability and our own brains, but we use the things of the world, and we don't use our ability to discern from right or wrong, or even the ability to communicate face to face. We want to use social media, take the coward's way out and talk about folks. Oh yeah. Talk about them left and right, not realizing that all that stuff is out there for your employer to see, schools to see, and everybody in the world. We use society's definition as a vessel of sexiness to find love. Mamas, let me say this. Please stop sending your daughters to school with these tight pants that shows everything. Some of your daughters are developing nice little hips and all, and they're wearing them just bouncing all down the hall. And I'm gonna tell you, because I was a boy in high school, and I saw it come by the way, and I thought I can get a little hand in there. I might just put a little hand there sometime, and then the girl think it's cute. And then before you know it, your daughter's in trouble. And guess what? The boy's gone his own way. I know it's the fashion, I know it's the style, but mamas, think about it a little bit. Okay, I'm out of your business for a minute. We use society's definition, we're not our brains or God's definition of true love, marriage, and the family institution. We see what's all on TV, and they have to be the tightest clothes and the most revealing. We're just cracking up trying to use the vessels of this world. But it's about the ship. It's about the ship. Has God prepared a vessel for you? Or are you even looking for it? In the text, verse 5, let's look at verse 5. Verse 5 says, then the mariners, I'm reading from King James, I'm sorry, excuse me. Then the mariners were afraid and cried every man unto his God and cast forth the wares that were in the ship into the sea to lighten it of them. But Jonah was gone down into the sides of the ship, and he lay and was fast asleep. With ships, they had this law, this principle, and it went way back into the 800 BC, and it was really put out even more in 750, 762 BC, but around 800 BC is when they were able to check back and see this law. And if you go into any law school now, maritime law, dealing with ships and vessels, they have shelves and shelves built around this one principle called general average. General average. And basically what it says it's a principle of maritime law where in the event of emergency, if cargo is jettisoned or thrown overboard or expenses incurred, the loss is shared proportionately by all parties with the financial interest in the voyage. Basically saying that if the ship is about to be destroyed, if harm, the danger is about to come into the lives of the people on the ship, you have the right to throw whatever you need to overboard. And so if I put $1,000 in, you put $100,000 worth of stuff in, well, if all of my stuff got thrown overboard, I don't have to bear the whole burden of that loss. Everybody with their proportion would pay some part. So because the important thing was to get the ship back to shore and the people safe. If they came back with the cargo, good. If they didn't. But if the ship was saved and the people's lives were saved, that was important. Keep that in mind, because it's about the ship. Who has entered into your life and caused you to lose not only your stuff, but the valuables of others? You heard her talking this morning to the young kids about how valuable things are. The end is valuable. You're thinking that way, and you're trying to get to the end. And sometimes people enter into our lives and cause not only us problems, but mama and daddy problems too. Cousins and uncles, people on the job, and so some people bring things in to the church thinking they're doing something good, but it hurts everybody in the long run. Who has stepped in your time of deepest loss and shared that loss with you? Anybody willing to take on your loss, take you under their arm and say, we're going to suffer through this together? Somebody say, I'm about to crack up. Are you willing to throw some stuff overboard in your own life in order to save your life? Well, God provides for us salvation. In order to have it, we have to be willing to get rid of some stuff in our life and trust Him for the journey. Things that may seem necessary in this life, things that we value, but where eternity is concerned, they don't even mean a thing. We need to get rid of some stuff. They have to be cast overboard if we want to have a part in life eternal as God provides. What stuff are you willing to throw overboard to calm your stormy seas? You need to get rid of some stuff sometime. Or would you rather throw yourself overboard like Jonah told them to keep someone else from receiving the goodness from God? Some people would rather die than see somebody else happy. They do it every day. They pull a gun and they shoot the wife, the children, and themselves because they don't want to see somebody happy without them. And we don't think it happens in our community. Oh, yes, it does. Listen to the news and wake up in the morning and turn it on. This person shot. That person shot. There was a time when folks used to fight about stuff and then it was over. We used to have a thing in elementary school, meet me under the big tree. After school, meet me under the big tree. Everybody know if they heard, oh, it's going to be a fight at the big tree. They fight and it was over. The worst thing you might hear is somebody getting cut. Every once in a while, as they got older, not in elementary, but as they're older, somebody always carried a pocket knife. If you ever heard of a gun, then, oh man, that was real bad. But now they shoot you about anything. Boyfriend, girlfriend, she's going with somebody else, leaving, now he want to shoot everybody. What are we doing? What kind of stuff we need to throw overboard? There was a phrase that they used to use whenever someone did something that was just crazy, considered crazy or outlandish. They'd say, that boy's not wrapped too tight. Yeah, that boy's not wrapped too tight. He always doing something crazy. Stay away from that boy. Don't hang out with him. Something ain't right. But when we run away from God, we do crazy things. When the pressures of this world come on us, we act like we're not wrapped too tight. We forget what God has told us. We don't go back to the Word. We were talking about some things the other day, and one said, you know, we're tired of hearing that. We don't need to have lectures and talk, but sometimes you need that. You need the Word of God all the time. If you're not holding firm to the Word of God, what are you holding to? Sunken vessels. That's all. So sometimes we need to wonder about some things that we're doing. Are we really wrapped as tight as we ought to? And I'm about to close here. Look in the text. It's in the text. Look at verse 3 and 4. We're about to close this out. We're going to let you get to some chicken and all of that good stuff. Verse 3 says, but Jonah rose up to flee unto Tarshish, because he was running away from God. He was running. Are you running? Are you running from God? He went down to Joppa, and he found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare thereof and went down into it to go with them unto Tarshish, what? From the presence of the Lord. But look at what they say in verse 4. But the Lord sent out a great wind into the sea. God knows what he's doing. He knows where you're going. You can't run from him. And there was a mighty tempest in the sea, so that the ship was like to be broken. And I like what one author says. He says that what this phrase really means is that the way you interpret that text is that the ship was saying she thinks she's about to crack up, because the pressures of the sea came in on the ship, and the ship was being tossed and turned in a wooden vessel after being beat and battered for so long. And if it has a lot of cargo, the ship would just break into pieces. And so God designed a system to take care of that. She thinks she's about to crack up. Are you cracking up in life? What will you do when the pressures of this world come upon you? Well, this is what they used to do with the ships. When the ships were about to crack up, if the ship was truly seaworthy, if it was one designed to handle the adversity of life, or the adversity at sea, they would put bands, metal bands around the ship. And what they would do whenever they would meet a dangerous waves or whatever, they would begin to tighten up the bands. You're not following me. The ship wasn't wrapped too tight at first, so they had to tighten up the bands so that the wood would hold itself together. And then in the process, they would throw in all of the heavy weight overboard so the ship wouldn't just sink down. And when the waves came up, the waves would fill the ship, and then that would be more weight. It would take it down. But a good maritime man, a good mariner, would know how to tighten up the bands of the ship when the pressures of life was on. And so these mariners, they knew what to do. They were well trained. But guess what? God had a hand in all of this. And Jonah knew it. Jonah said, I don't care what's going on. They went down to get him and to wake him up, and then they found out that Jonah was down there asleep while they were trying to save the boat. What vessels are you on that are sinking and you're not wrapped too tight? And the people you hang with aren't wrapped too tight. Nobody's tightening up the bands. Nobody's looking at the word. What will you do when the vessels you use to run away from God starts to crack up all around you? When that sexy body you used to get love now turns into a temple for every STD. What do? Where are you running to hide? What vessel are you going to turn to? What you going to do then? When all the manipulation and trickery to get position and power turns into 11 months, 29 days in the county jail, what you going to do? Where are you going to run? When social media puts all your business out there for everyone and forever and ever, causing you to lose friends, jobs, and even that scholarship that you thought you were going to get. What you going to do? Where you going to run and hide? When God tells you to love your enemies and those who despitefully misuse you, what you going to do? Are you going to run from God? You going to find your own vessel to run? Well, you need to find the right ship. God prepared a vessel before the foundation of the world. God declared him to be worthy. And the angels even cried out, "Worthy is the Lamb." He's worthy. And if you're looking for him in any other place, you're looking for the wrong thing. There's a song that used to go, it said, "'Tis the old ship of Zion. Get on board, get on board." Where are you running to? Where are you running from? You need to be running to that ship of Zion. He didn't ask anyone else to share the loss. He didn't need a principle of general averages for somebody else to share the loss. He decided he'd take all the losses on himself. He didn't ask anybody to share the loss, the discomfort, or the agony. He paid it all, and all to him we owe. It's the ship. He has landed many 1,000. His ship always makes it home. His ship is wrapped tight. His ship makes it to its destination. You need to get on board. Get on board. For it is that old ship of Zion. He paid it all, and all to him we owe. His name is Jesus, if you don't know who I'm talking about. So if you're looking for love in all the wrong places, look to Jesus. If you want to be accepted, look to Jesus. If you want real power, real position, look to Jesus, for he will carry you through. Don't put your trust in man-made things to get you where you want to go or get the things you desire. They will crack up all around you. Put your trust and faith in Jesus. Aren't you glad that there was somebody who thought you were worth saving? Did all kind of things. Turned your back on him. But he was there all the time. Give your life to Jesus. And when things seem to be cracking up all around you, know where to turn. Use the right vessels in life to get you where you need to go. Stop looking at the world and what they're doing. I'm tired of hearing Christians talking about what the world is doing. We need to be like that. No, we don't. God designed this thing a long time ago before ever was a business started. He said, just obey me. You don't understand why you're going to Nineveh. You don't like them. You don't like those girls that stand on the corner, so you won't minister to them. You don't like those drug addict people, but God does. They're about to crack up. Are you going to be that vessel to help bring them home?